This is this is not a at the backlog. Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome to the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi. How is everyone doing? Hopefully well. I am, of course, your host, Mark Kirznez. Had a bit of a scare just before recording this where the webcam wasn't working. I restarted my computer, still nothing. And so I did the last thing I could think of, which was unplugging it and plugging it back in, and that resolved the issue. But like what always happens, but this was even more so, whenever Windows updates itself, and this time it updated itself without ever asking me, hey, is this going to be an okay time? No, just I was on my treadmill walking and suddenly my Plex connection was gone. And I said to myself, oh, I guess the computer just restarted itself. But whenever that happens, OBS suddenly reverts to all the default audio settings so that my microphone doesn't work, the game capture audio doesn't work, and now this instance, the webcam wasn't even working. Nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I wish I could just tell Windows, I'm good. Fucking, I don't need any of your updates. Everything's working fine. Fuck off. Until some piece of software says, we're no longer compatible with your current version of Windows, just leave me the fuck alone. I know you can pause updates for a few weeks or so, maybe a month at max, but you can't tell Windows, I don't think, not at least officially, tell it to just fuck off. And that's what I wish it would do. But speaking of video games, since the last episode, a lot happened, of course. We had Summer Game Fest, we had Day of the Devs, Wholesome Direct, so on and so forth, the Xbox Showcase, and my takeaway from all of that is, one, Summer Game Fest this year was more underwhelming than I could think of in any recent memory. I can't remember how long Summer Game Fest has been going on, if it was something that started the first time E3 was on the way out and Jeff saw it as a moment to strike. It's like, oh my god, E3's weak in the knees. It's kind of losing its balance. I can get in there and sweep the leg and it'll all be good. But this feels like the weakest. So I'm sure the first one was probably weak. I don't know. I really did not like the bait and switch with Resident Evil 9. Oh, I'm here to talk about Resident Evil 9. I just want to say, everyone, we're working on it, but I hope you can be patient and just wait a little bit longer for us to reveal it to you and whatnot. And then 15, 20, 30 minutes later at the end of the show, Jeff is going all off about how he's so proud that this prestigious, long-running, so-and-so fucking thing is willing to announce his things here as he's getting all teary-eyed and crying. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And it was clear that it was a Capcom game, what they were showing, but I thought, oh no, Parasite Eve is Square Enix. I was watching it and I'm thinking to myself, what is this? What is this? It's not Resident Evil because they just said 30 minutes ago, give us a little bit more time. Unless this is a little bit more time, in which case, go fuck yourself. Because that's just, I thought that was a really bullshitty way of handling that announcement. I know others disagree, but for me, it took all the wind out of the sails. My excitement for Resident Evil 9, in that moment at least, I'm excited about it overall. I enjoyed the Resident Evil games I've played quite a lot. There are plenty I still have to play, and I don't know which one to play next. Probably 4, but I would really love it if they would announce and release relatively soonish a remake of Code Veronica X, because it is in dire need of one for multiple reasons, if nothing else for the ability to hard lock yourself out of being able to complete the game, which is not a great thing. But the way they handled that announcement did make me, at least, lose all excitement in the moment for the game, because all I could think about is the way they handled the announcement as opposed to the announcement itself. Outside of that, I can't remember anything from Summer Game Fest specifically that stood out game or announcement wise. I'm trying to think. I did do live reactions for that in Xbox and then deleted those streams because there was some stuff that I don't really need to get into, but people can be shitheads. The Xbox showcase, I understand the criticism regarding first party stuff. That doesn't bother me, especially in the direction Xbox is headed. I do think ending with Call of Duty was incredibly weird. That seems like the game you would start the showcase with. And it was also extra weird because the entire time until you got to the end of the reveal, I was so confused as to what it was. Phil Spencer said we have one last thing and it's a really big deal, or however you phrased it. And I was watching the trailer the whole time thinking to myself, should I know what this is? Should I know what this is? What is this? It seems kind of familiar, but I can't put my finger on it. What is this? I should know what this is, right? And then it became Call of Duty. I was like, fuck. That kind of sucks. But I think it was an overall good showcase. And on that end point, because I understand not wanting Fable there, not seeing State of Decay 3 is kind of a big letdown. But based on things I've heard, Everwild, I believe that's the name of it, is still going along strong and is looking not bad after I think they may have restarted it. But if they could have just shown a little bit of it, even if it was a cinematic trailer, just show us that the game does still exist, show the public it still exists, and if you have gameplay, give us an idea of what the game is now, if it's the same thing, if it's something else. Just remind people of that game and that it exists. And I think that would have been a really nice pie in the sky, this distant future type of, hey, remember this? We're still making it. Outside of that, I don't know what else they could have had other than Halo 1 remake, which I guess, can't remember if that was rumored to be in the works after the showcase. But if they could have shown something like that, get people excited for next year, that could have been cool as well. Speaking of that, though, Gears of War Reloaded, I got a message on my Xbox, and I would tell everyone else, if you are ignoring the notification, go check it, because I'm assuming this is the case with everyone and not selected people. I got a message saying that since I haven't, I think it was phrased, oh, you've been supportive, blah, 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 blah. But since I owned a digital copy of Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which is the remaster of Gears of War 1, I, in that message, got a code for Reloaded, the complete game. So that's pretty cool. I don't know what the Reloaded version is going to MSRP for, but it doesn't really matter because I got a code for it. But that's cool. That's nice. They could have, at the very least, charged me a $10 upgrade like PlayStation or Nintendo has done with some of their games. But instead of doing that, they just charged us $80 for the Outer Worlds too, which I didn't watch that follow-up because I haven't played the first one still. Didn't think I would be able to get much out of that and potentially would be spoiled on things. But if it is a significant upgrade over the first game, the $80 could be justifiable I don't know. It is something that people are going to have to get used to, the higher prices, and whether or not a game warrants the price tag, who's to say? It's all up to each individual. And if nothing else, so I think basing a game's value on nothing but the time spent in it, how long it is, how much time you spend in it specifically, that's never the way it works. If that's the case, then a lot of people who played Balatro, that's a what, $100+ game, given how much time you put into it. Would you spend $100 on Balatro? I fucking doubt it. Would you spend $50 on Balatro? I doubt it. Would you spend $30 on Balatro? I would even doubt that. I'm not sure what the MSRP for that is. Maybe it is close to 30. I would assume that's 20, 25 max, but it could be 30. In which case, I guess you did spend that much, or you waited on sale. But speaking of prices, I'm gonna have its own video in the attached backlog feed about it. Got my Switch 2, played Mario Kart World a fair amount, and what I'll say as a teaser for that video, that deep dive into Mario Kart World, that is not an $80 game. It's not an $80 game. Does it mean it's a bad game? That doesn't mean it's a bad game. But it's not an $80 game. That is for sure. Other than all that, pricing and blah, 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 I thought, or my game of the show, that is, from all of Summer Game Fest, Day of the Devs. Day of the Devs was pretty solid. I should watch that more often. I think this is my first year ever watching the entire show in its entirety. Entire show in its entirety. That's great. Great internal writing, Mark. But my game of the show was from the Xbox Showcase. I don't know if this is the exact title, but it was There Are No Ghosts at the Grand. The title may be slightly different, but it was something along those lines. And this was some musical, power wash sim-like, puzzle, Lovecraftian, weird, really interesting, funky game that grabbed me immediately. I thought the music was great, the vibe was great, the gameplay looked fun and I was very taken aback by that game. That was easily my game of the show. I just loved everything about it. I like it even more. Mixtape. We saw more mixtape, but that was already a known quantity, so that doesn't make it the game of the show for me, or the game of the shows, plural. But I am still very excited about that game. I am concerned that I may not vibe with the writing or the sense of humor, but just from a general overall vibe with the music and the visuals, the style, I am very, very into, and I hope that I enjoy the rest of the game as much as I enjoy all that. Well, at least of what I've seen. But the last thing I'll probably touch on before just getting into what I've been playing, it's going to be a shorter step. It's been a hectic week. Today, time of the recording, well, it's leaked over into Friday early morning. So past midnight, and then in the early morning. I had to run errands all day. Didn't get home until mid-afternoon. Got a little bit of sleep, did my streaming, and now I'm doing this, and I have to figure out what I'm streaming Friday for for the end of the week. Maybe I'll just go back to Mario Kart, do more Knockout Tour. Because again, not a bad game, just not an $80. But the Xbox handheld, which isn't their handheld, THEIR, but the one we've known about that is a partnership with the ROG Ally, and I forget the order of words, and this is the ROG Ally Xbox X. Well, there are two iterations. There's a more powerful one and a less powerful one. But knowing what I knew about it beforehand, it was not a handheld that spoke to me because I want an Xbox handheld that can play all of my console library. I don't want to just play PC Xbox games with this Play Anywhere stuff. I want to play all of my games. And that is not what this is. However, the more I thought about it, one, hearing that they spent a lot of time on the design to make it feel like you're holding an Xbox controller, and that based on early impressions from podcasts and stuff like that, it very much so feels like that. That is a strong selling point. I love the Steam Deck. It is a great portable PS2, but for modern games, I don't like the controls for a lot of them, especially if any first-person shooter, get out of here. No, I've tried it, did not like it at all. And in general, I don't like the way the Steam Deck feels in comparison to a regular controller. And that's kind of a given, you would say, but when you look at something like the Portal, which isn't a handheld, it's a remote play device, and also they added cloud streaming, but that, for all intents and purposes, based on people's impressions, feels like holding a DualSense, but with the screen in the middle. This ROG Ally Xbox is the same, but with an Xbox controller. Xbox is my favorite controller by far, so that has me intrigued. But more so than that, as I thought about it, and we'll also say the fancy one, the more powerful one, you can expect about $1,000 for that. Maybe they'll even go over it, but I think I would assume that they would want to keep the price at $999.99 and not $1,100-$1,200. And I believe the comparable non-Xbox version is MSRP'd at $900. So you put on the Xbox tax of $100, and I think it has a stronger chip and whatnot. But the more I thought about it, and some of the talks I've heard about backward compatibility, not original Xbox and 360 games, but just in keeping your library and having it be forward compatible specifically, I feel like Xbox might do what they did for backward compatibility on the 360 and that original Xbox side, and try and do that with as much of your Xbox One and Series library as possible in terms of converting games to be Play Anywhere games. Because that would also make sense in what I believe would be the push to make the next Xbox a hybrid console, which is a Windows and Xbox front end type of console where you could play your Xbox library on it, but also your Windows library on it, and that they would be trying to make it so that your console library can also be played on your Windows device or whatnot, because it's all going to be this unified platform. And if that is the case, then ideally a good amount, probably never all, but a good amount of games would be playable on something like this ROG Ally Xbox X, whatever it's called. So that has me mildly interested in it, intrigued by it conceptually. So I'm kind of sitting there with it, and maybe I'll pick one up. We'll see all about that. And they really sold Silksong as being playable on it. And then the developers came out and said, no. It's not going to be a launch title for this system. It'll be out before the system. It's coming out this year. Yep. Sure. We'll see. We'll see when it happens. I'll believe it when I see it. Getting on to what I've been playing. So, we're going to start with a little game called Section 13. Section 13 is a roguelite twin-stick shooter packed with action and challenges. As an agent of the S2P Corporation, It's up to you to investigate a crisis at the most top secret facility of a company whose whole thing is keeping secrets. And here's a little note in the description. Planned features update will bring online and couch co-op modes with optional friendly fire for maximum madness in the narrow corridors of Section 13. So this handles like a lot of traditional loop-based roguelites in that you go off and you're handling, you start off in the same area and then it kind of branches randomly where you're playing as one of a handful of characters. You only have the one at the start, but you'll run into ones during runs, unlock them, and then they'll have specific perks to them, whether it be, I don't even remember. But you're doing this, tackling specific missions. There's a lot of getting to an area, having to activate a switch, and then take on waves of enemies. The twin stick shooting feels pretty good. The game looks pretty good, but there is a bit of a performance issue in that it hangs up every now and again. It is not frequent by any measure, but it happens enough that it is noticeable and it feels icky when it happens, but for the most part, it runs fine and smoothly. I like the look of it, a nice clean aesthetic, decent color. As a twin stick shooter, it feels good. It's basically you twin stick shooting as you do with the sticks, and then a lot of rolling out of the way. Reloading, you can't reload when you're rolling. No kind of active reload system where you time it right and you can reload faster. I wish there was something like that because I feel like it would make the reloading a bit more engaging. You have some items and some abilities, but yeah, it's weird because while I enjoyed the shooting, I enjoyed it mechanically. I liked the look of it. Didn't really care about the story. The loop, I went through maybe 5 loops, and already at that point, I was kind of tired of it. I got tired of the gameplay. I got tired of constantly getting in these situations where I'd have to take on waves of enemies, and the waves could be a little bit drawn out. There were times where I would take on waves in a dark room, and I would start to lose my mind because that's a part of the game where if you're in dark spaces, you start to kind of freak out, and then you have to get into lit areas to calm down. But I'm taking on these waves that feel dragged out, and then I'm starting to lose my mind because I'm locked in this unlit area, and I get annoyed because I want to be able to go somewhere that's lit and calm down, but I can't because I'm still dealing with all these waves. I don't know. It's a weird case of me enjoying the game mechanically. I like it. I think it is a really solid feeling twin stick shooter, and that's important. So it gets the core feature of the game down well. It feels good to play. But the actual loop didn't grab me. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because the narrative didn't do anything for me, if the combat itself wasn't that interesting. The enemies I was facing is just a lot of zombies and some bigger zombies. I did end up getting to a part 2 where I fought against regular humans, like mercenary groups that had guns that could shoot at me, which made things a bit more interesting in how I had handled those situations. When you're going on runs, you'll come across certain chests and stuff like that that will give you some kind of perk for that run, whether it be being able to do more damage to an enemy if they're a certain distance away, or if an enemy doesn't notice you, you can do more damage. Depending on how many enemies are near you, your damage will be boosted by 5% per enemy, up to 25%, things like that. It's all, again, so much of it on paper sounds like I should love it, and I'm only kind of the first few hours, it just didn't get its hooks in me. I do want to play more, and I think I heard or saw in the press release I got for it that you can't experience the full narrative unless you do co-op, which, if true, is a little frustrating because I don't imagine I'll find anyone to play this with. That could make things better as well, but on its own, it's decent. It's something I want to play more of, and who knows, maybe I'll stream that. Play a bit more of that and stream that this evening. Yeah, I'm curious about it. Curious. I'm liking it well enough, but not liking it to the point of being super enthusiastic about it. That's section 13. Section 13. $20. Next, we have Trident's Tale. Set sail for an epic, action-packed adventure in Trident's Tale, where you'll become Ocean, a bold young captain on a quest to reclaim the legendary Storm Trident, a mythical artifact that grants power over the seas. But beware, the ocean is vast, treacherous, and crawling with danger at every turn. So ready the cannons, hoist the sails, and immerse yourself in a gripping tale filled with eccentric characters, cunning dungeons, and adrenaline-pumping battles. You will need to master your magic and embrace the swashbuckling spirit to become the ruler of the seas. So this is a very kind of piratey adventure tale. And it's definitely geared towards, I'd say, a younger audience. There's not a lot of it, the mechanics and everything going on, and it is very simplified, has a more cartoon aesthetic. I really didn't like the visuals for a specific reason, and that reason is it's all oversaturated. It's too vibrant, the colors are too turned up, and it was very grating on me to keep playing it because I just wanted to dial it back a few notches. But in terms of gameplay, it's a lot of basic, simplified mechanics of simple combat, simple platforming. When you're on your ship and engaging in battles with other ships, it's the basic get to the side, shoot off your cannons, and attack them in that sense. You can, quote unquote, board a ship when you weaken it up, but all that does is, I think you get close to them, you hit the board button, and then it destroys their ship, and I think you might get more resources that way as opposed to just destroying them with more cannon fire. But in the time I put into it, I fought a boss as well. It was never challenging. It wasn't that fun to explore the areas I was in. Sailing the seas wasn't exciting. It very much so, again, it feels geared towards a younger audience, and it could be enjoyable for them. But the story wasn't interesting. The voice acting wasn't great. I just didn't jive with any of it. Gameplay's fine enough, but it didn't speak to me. I was playing it the whole time. I was thinking to myself, why am I not just playing something like Black Flag instead? I, of course, haven't played Black Flag, so it is way more enticing. But even if I had played Black Flag, why don't I play Black Flag again? Why don't I jump into Sea of Thieves? I know this is a much more traditional single player game than Sea of Thieves, so there is that. But yeah, it just didn't really do much for me. That's Trident's Tale. Next, we have Spirit of the North 2. In an ancient world left in ruin, embark on the journey of an isolated fox far from home. With the help of a wise raven companion, seek out the lost legendary guardians and release them from the grasp of the dark shaman, Grimnir. I played the first game and I'm pretty sure I beat it, and I remember very little about it. And that is kind of telling. And that would follow with this because I put in maybe close to 3 hours into this, exploring the world to some extent, though. While it is kind of open, it is also it is pushing you to do certain things in a very obvious way where you feel like you are in this open area, but at the same time, you clearly should just go do this to unlock this and then unlock that and so on and so forth. What I don't, the visuals are very inconsistent. What I found most frustrating about playing the game, though, are the controls, specifically the platform. So you're a fox, and when you start off, unlike the first game, you have some degree of control over how your fox looks. You can name them, but the options you have at the start of the game are very limited. You have your traditional orangish, reddish coat. Then you have a more orange, a lighter orange coat. Then you have one that's kind of a white with just a hint of orange under there. And maybe one other one, maybe a brown one, and that's it. I did find somebody who I could buy a black coat from, and there might be some more funky colors out there. You have some eye choices and ear choices, but all of them are so subtle and not that different that no matter how much time you spend in the creator, I don't think you're going to make that distinct of a fox to make spending too much time customizing a fox worthwhile. So I don't even know why it's there. But the real shot I have with the game is the platforming specifically. And you're doing a bunch of very simple puzzly mechanics. There are things that you have to collect, these random things that you get through breaking pots and whatnot in the environment. If you have enough, you can activate this shrine, this column that'll open up this area, so on. And you're pulling switches every now and again. But the platforming works in two ways. You have your free platforming, which is just your ability to jump and jump wherever you want and so on. But then also, if you're in range of a certain ledge and you wouldn't be able to get there with your free roam, you might see a little like arrow, blue arrow that shows up, and that indicates, and you press the jump button. Instead of doing your free jumping, you will jump to that specific place. And what makes that system not great is that it can be real finicky getting yourself in the position so that you can pull off one of those jumps on a ledge that you can't just free jump to. And sometimes, especially if you're in tight spaces and caves, the camera can get so zoomed in on you, and the perspective and the position can get so weird that it's hard to position the camera and then your character, because you can't even see your character anymore, in a place where then you can align them so that you can reach one of these ledges through the predetermined jumping. And I got into multiple situations where I'm trying to get to a place. When I position it just right, I can see that the arrow shows up, but then something gets off here or there and the arrow disappears, and I have to keep just tapping it and trying to find the camera position and my character's position just right so that I can reach this area or that area. And that got to the point where it's just incredibly frustrating, and I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So that really made the game frustrating to the point of not wanting to keep playing it. But outside of that, I didn't find the world that interesting to explore. The story that I got so far didn't interest me. And yeah, sometimes it can look quite nice, and other times it can look not that great. Bit of a mixed bag there. That is Spirit of the North 2. Then we have a few quick ones. Keeper's Toll. Arise, fallen hero, and see your journey through. Enter Keeper's Toll, an action-packed survival roguelite set within a retro-infused dark fantasy world. Every moment could be your last, so on and so forth. I don't need to give you the whole spiel and description for this one because it's just a Vampire Survivors like. With the fantasy setting, you have 5 or 6 characters to choose from at the very start, from a pyromancer, warrior, necromancer, so on. A lot of your traditional type classes that'll have their strengths and weaknesses in terms of the pyromancer, for instance, has a very strong area of effect attack, but weak on one-on-one type fights. But it is exactly like a Survivors game where you're taking on enemies as they keep spawning more and more and more at you, picking up the currency that they drop to earn XP, level up your character for a run, and unlock new abilities that make you stronger, level them up, find new abilities. There will be bosses and mini bosses that come in over time, and you're just trying to survive as long as possible. There are 4 different areas, and you will also gain a certain current or 2 different currencies that allow you to give yourself some permanent upgrades for specific classes and whatnot. It's fine. Looks pretty solid. Gameplay as what it is of being a passive thing where you're just moving the character around as they're attacking on their own. Gets the job done there. A solid addition to the Survivors genre. Doesn't do anything particularly new or special. No crazy creative attacks. And so, yeah, it's just fine. I think I've come to realize that these types of games, for them to really speak to me, they have to be doing something completely different, whether it be, I forget what it was. It was not Vampire Survivors, but there was that one that was first person. That was kind of interesting. But then it felt very easy to break the system and just get into a corner where enemies couldn't get up behind me and I could just tunnel them in that way. But there is that one. It was Apathy. I don't remember the title of it, but it was the one that had some really funky powers that you could get, like the cosmic trucks that would come in and run over enemies and destroy them and other things like that. It had a lot of fun things going on. And I also like the leveling up system in that game where you could increase the power of various items and power-ups, yes, but you could also, with your currency, change the percentage of a power-up showing up. So you can make something more likely to happen or less likely to appear, all the way down to it never appearing. And that way of being able to fine-tune your experience to make it consistently what you want, I like that. It made it so that grinding for currencies and stuff was worthwhile. Yeah, that's Keeper's Toll. And then the last one is Bunny Cubed. Hop your way through dozens of springtime puzzles, stages, and isometric 3D style classic block-pushing puzzles. Enter the 3rd dimension with Bunny Cubed. This is exactly what it is. You have designated spaces to push cubes onto, and so you have to move the boxes in this environment, hopefully not get them in a position where you get them stuck and have to restart the level. But it's just a very traditional one of those. Perfectly fine, cute art style. The problem with it is that I played through the first 25 levels in maybe 5 minutes, if that. So who knows? Maybe after 25 levels, it starts to get challenging. But those first 25 levels were so mindless and simple and easy that if you're looking for a fast, in this case, 2,000 achievement points, or I'm assuming platinum on PlayStation, it's great for that. But if you want an actual challenging one of these types of games, a block pushing game, Bunny Cubed is not that. It is mindlessly simple and easy. So that is its both strength and weakness, I guess, depending on what you want from a game like this. Do you just want the achievements slash trophies, or do you want an actual challenging, worthwhile experience? If you're the former, thumbs up. If you're the latter, thumbs down. If you, I don't know what a thumb sideways person would be for a game like this. That is, again, Bunny Cubed. Anywho, that'll do it for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Once again, I am Marcus, and as y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, a private Discord channel, along with some fancy Discord roles, and the random drop on the Patreon here or there depending on your tier. Or you can just support me to support me if that is your fancy. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is the letter P, the letter X, sausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. But for now, adios, arrivederci. Bye bye.
It's go time. Go, Daddy. It's go time.